4 officers involved in the death of George Floyd now charged with his killing. The passengers who were in George Floyd's car revealing new details. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, the man set to prosecute the case, is live only on GMA this morning.
Enough is enough. The blistering attack from the president's former defense secretary, General James Mattis, now calling President Trump a threat to the Constitution, who tries to divide the American people. And that photo op at St. John's Cathedral, an abuse of authority. The reaction from the White House this morning.
Protests and the pandemic, the new fear about a surge after massive crowds gathering to protest. One college football player announcing he tested positive after attending a demonstration as COVID cases continue to rise in at least 16 states. Plus, in what could be good news for parents, what Dr. Anthony Fauci is now saying about reopening schools.
Bracing for Cristobal. The tropical storm making landfall in Mexico, bringing deadly flash floods. It now threatens the Gulf Coast from Florida to Louisiana as a deadly storm sweeps across the Northeast. Winds gusting at over 90 miles an hour. Ginger tracking it all.
Drew Brees backlash.
I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America.
The NFL star under fire, saying he still doesn't support taking a knee during the national anthem. In the wake of George Floyd's killing, the top players and teammates lashing out on social media.
And the NBA bouncing back.
Powers in and finishes.
Our favorite players planning a big return to the court. What the league is doing to keep teams safe and how Disney World may be making the magic happen.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good morning, America. Thank you for joining us again in this tumultuous time. Thousands more gathered in America's streets again last night, demanding justice for George Floyd and reforms in our justice system.
And many of those demonstrations were peaceful overnight. Take a look at this beautiful scene. This is in Denver. You see the protesters there all holding up their cell phone lights in honor of George Floyd. They did that for nearly 9 minutes. Of course, that is how long Floyd was on the ground for.
And we're seeing all this play out on a day where there was a major development in the case. Prosecutors now upgrading the most serious charge against former officer Derek Chauvin to second-degree murder. The Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison set to prosecute the case, and he's set to talk to us. He's standing by to join us live.
He has warned this could be a difficult case to win. The other 3 officers on the scene have now also been charged. They are expected in court this afternoon. Eva Pilgrim starts us off in Minneapolis with the latest. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, George. And news of those arrests as this community prepares to honor George Floyd with a memorial service later today. This as protesters around the world continue to call for change.
Overnight, predominantly peaceful protests across the nation, with small pockets of chaos plaguing day 9 of protests over the death of George Floyd. Police engaging with peaceful protesters in Brooklyn and tear gas used in New Orleans to disperse a crowd. This morning, all 4 former officers involved in the fatal arrest of George Floyd waking up behind bars, facing charges related to his murder. Thomas Lane, J. Alexander King, and Toe Tao charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and manslaughter. Attorney General Keith Ellison also adding a second-degree murder charge for Derek Chauvin.
I believe the evidence available to us now supports the stronger charge of second-degree murder.
Floyd's son reacting to the arrests.
I am happy that all the officers have been arrested. My father have not been killed like this. We deserve justice.
Prosecutors also releasing additional details about the events leading up to Floyd's death. According to the new complaints, when officers tried to walk Floyd to the squad car, he stiffened up, fell to the ground, but said he was not resisting. The documents go on to state the officers made several attempts to get Floyd into the squad car from the driver's side, and that Chauvin eventually pulled him out of the passenger side and onto the ground. Overnight, in an interview with the New York Times, Maurice Lester Hall, sitting in the passenger seat and one of 2 witnesses in the car with Floyd, saying his friend tried to diffuse tensions with police and in no way resisted arrest. He was, from the beginning, trying in his humblest form to show he was not resisting in no form or way. I could hear him pleading, Police officer, what's all this for? In Minneapolis, where Floyd died, cheers as the charges were announced.
We got all four! We got all four!
Across the country, thousands marching peacefully, saying there is still work to do.
I still think it's not enough, but I'm so happy that we're moving towards change because a few years ago, I don't think this would have happened.
Former President Barack Obama praising the efforts of demonstrators across the nation.
I just have to say thank you to them for helping to bring about this moment and just make sure that we now follow through.
And the mayor of LA announcing some major reforms, including cutting the LAPD's budget by up to $150 million. The department will also be instructed to invest more in bias training, as well as youth and oversight programs. George.
Okay, Eva, thanks very much. Let's bring in the Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, right now. General, thanks for joining us again this morning. We showed you in that piece
Thank you.
saying you believe the evidence supports the charge now against Derek Chauvin for second-degree murder. The defense is likely to argue that Chauvin did not intend to kill George Floyd. Can you prove intent to kill? Under Minnesota law, do you have to?
That is not one of the requirements of second-degree murder, felony murder. The requirement is that he intended to commit an assault, and that assault resulted in the death of George Floyd. So that is not one of the elements of that particular charge.
The Floyd family attorney, as you know, Benjamin Crump, is urging you to continue the investigation and bring charges of first-degree murder. Are you open to that?
We will charge anything that the facts in the law allow. We are not showing fear or favor to any person. If the facts show premeditation and deliberation, and we can present that in front of a jury in good faith, we absolutely will charge that particular count.
But as of right now, you have no evidence of premeditation?
I wouldn't want to comment on what I have or don't have. We've charged the highest ethical charge that we feel we can at this point.
The official autopsy report says that Floyd had some pre-existing conditions, heart disease, hypertension, also fentanyl and other intoxicants in his system. How much of a challenge does that pose to your case?
Well, you take your victim as you find them. You can't say that, well, the person who I victimized was not in the very perfect picture of health, so it's their fault that they died at my hands. You take your victim as you find them, and I believe that that is a factor that should not weigh. But the fact is that you never know. Those kind of things are things that some defense attorneys are going to try to turn into. We don't think that that matters in terms of proximate cause. That both of the medical examiner reports we've seen indicate homicide, death at the hands of another. So that is what we think is what matters most.
Other three officers charged with aiding and abetting. What do you have to prove to win those cases?
That they helped. That they helped. And if you can look at the tape and see who's sitting where, and see the assistance that was given, meaningful and important assistance to what Chauvin was doing. And so we believe that, and we can also see what was not done. That even despite the pleas and the cries, there was no assistance rendered. So we believe that they were culpable. They assisted in the commission of this offense, and that is why we charge them.
From the beginning, you have consistently laid out a note of caution in this case, saying that these police misconduct cases are notoriously difficult to win. Are you confident you can get convictions here?
Yes, absolutely. We are confident we can do this, but we understand the challenge in front of us, which is why we're working extra hard.
And finally, this comes at a time where the whole country is now rocked by the issues of some systemic problems with policing across the country. The Minneapolis Police Department is under investigation. You've chaired a task force on deadly police force. What's the most important thing the country can do right now to address the systemic problem?
Well, to meet in local communities to talk about the kind of policing that they want. President Obama had the 21st Century Policing Task Force, where they generated a lot of ideas from both law enforcement and community to how we could reshape and redesign policing. We in Minnesota did the same thing, as you mentioned, the working group that myself and Commissioner Harrington led. But we need that happening in all 50 states and 7 territories, and even more granular than that, even at the municipal level, we need police, community, faith community, art community, everyone sitting down saying, how can we have a more just, more fair society? This is a social change moment, and this prosecution is essential to achieving that justice, but it is not enough to achieve all the justice and address all the hurt and pain that people have experienced. So we're urging people to continue this work. And if I may say so, George, even beyond policing, I mean, some of these problems have to do with, inadequate housing, poverty, and racist attitudes that Americans share who are not even in the police department. So all that work needs to be done. This is a good time to do it.
Attorney General Keith Ellison, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We're going to have live coverage of George Floyd's memorial service beginning at 2 Eastern right here on ABC. Amy?
Well, George, now to that extraordinary rebuke of President Trump by his former Defense Secretary General James Mattis, blasting the president in writing, portraying him as a divisive force and a threat to the Constitution. Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz has more. And Martha, you spoke with Mattis right after this was published.
I did, Amy. After years of avoiding public criticism of Trump, the much revered Marine Corps general and former Secretary of Defense told me enough is enough. With National Guard taking positions on America's streets and national monuments, with the president's threats to dispatch active duty forces, and his photo op outside a D.C. church after peaceful protesters were violently removed, Jim Mattis, President Trump's former Secretary of Defense, told me enough is enough. In a blistering essay in The Atlantic, Mattis writing of the oath he took as a Marine, never did I dream that troops taking that same oath would be ordered under any circumstance to violate the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens, much less to provide a bizarre photo op for the elected commander-in-chief with military leadership standing alongside. The lifelong Marine saying, Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us, calling Trump a threat to the Constitution. Mattis, who resigned over Trump's Syria policy, had been one of Trump's favorites.
Mad Dog Mattis, he's our best. They say he's the closest thing to General George Patton that we have.
But overnight, the president firing back at Mattis's latest comments, tweeting his primary strength was not military, but rather personal public relations. I gave him a new life, things to do, and battles to win, but he seldom brought home the bacon. Glad he is gone. It comes as the current Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, is defying Trump as well, saying he does not support calling up active duty troops, which would require invoking the Insurrection Act.
The option to use active duty forces in a law enforcement role should only be used as a matter of last resort and only in the most urgent and dire of situations. We are not in one of those situations now. I do not support invoking the Insurrection Act.
Esper's words were not welcomed at the White House, the press secretary making clear the president is still very much considering calling in active duty troops.
He has the sole authority to invoke the Insurrection Act, and if necessary, he will do so to protect American citizens.
The press secretary adding that if the president loses faith in Esper, we will learn about that in the future, not exactly a ringing endorsement. Now, as for those National Guard images from the streets, there has been some confusion. A lot of law enforcement can look like the National Guard because of what they're wearing, but if they are mostly special operations teams from various law enforcement agencies like the U.S. Marshal's Office seen in that image. TJ?
All right, Martha, good point to make. Thank you so much. We do want to turn to the latest on that other emergency, coronavirus. Experts warning that these large crowds we are seeing in the streets gathered to protest across the country might now cause a new COVID hotspots. Several of them. Whit Johnson joins us now with more on that. Good morning to you, Whit.
TJ, good morning to you. Governor Andrew Cuomo says New York City is still on track to begin phase 1 of reopening by Monday, but health officials are worried about these mass demonstrations. Thousands of people packed shoulder to shoulder for hours at a time. They are warning protesters that the virus is marching with them.
This morning, as hundreds of thousands protest across the country demanding change, mounting concern about whether a lack of masks and social distancing could lead to coronavirus outbreaks.
I see some wearing masks, I see some others not wearing masks. And so we are really trying to work with each of the mayors to expand testing availability.
This comes as many states are not out of the woods yet. 16 states plus Puerto Rico are seeing the number of new cases increase, including California, where LA County reported more than 1,100 new cases on Tuesday alone. Utah, Arizona, and Texas also seeing an increase. An Oklahoma State football player testing positive, writing on Twitter, after attending a protest in Tulsa and being well protective of myself, I have tested positive for COVID-19. Please, if you're going to protest, take care of yourself and stay safe.
Although most of those people look pretty healthy, we know that COVID could be out there in people with no symptoms.
But there are signs of hope in the former epicenter of the outbreak, New York, where new COVID hospitalizations dropped to a new low. Still a warning from Governor Andrew Cuomo.
If you're going to protest, protest intelligently. Remember, the COVID virus is still out there.
And overnight, the nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, saying the idea of keeping schools closed in the fall may not be necessary.
We now have results of the first large-scale clinical trial of hydroxychloroquine. That's the malaria drug that President Trump himself has promoted and even used recently. The study involved more than 800 people and found that it did absolutely nothing to prevent infections of COVID-19. George?
Okay, thanks very much. We're going to get more now on the economic fallout from the pandemic. New jobless numbers out this morning amid signs that our economy is starting to recover from the crisis. Rebecca Jarvis tracking it all. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, George. That's right. We're seeing the first signs of people being rehired and brought back to work since this pandemic began. We expect to learn later this morning that 1.8 million Americans filed new claims for unemployment. That is more layoffs. In fact, it is 3 times what would happen in a normal environment, but it would be the best of this crisis. And we believe that the returns to work, the rehiring, will happen by industry groups. Some of those who will come back initially are in healthcare, doctors, dentists, physical therapists, education, manufacturing, construction. These are all areas where we will see the return faster, where things expect to be slower, where you might not see that rehiring as quickly: hospitality, retail, and travel. George?
Thank you, Rebecca. We were following a lot of other headlines this morning, including quarterback Drew Brees facing a backlash now after saying he still doesn't support kneeling during the national anthem.
And then how Las Vegas casinos are keeping people safe as they reopen today. But first, let's go to Ginger with the latest on that tropical storm.
And I will get to that, but remember, we had that derecho yesterday that blew through Philadelphia, parts of New Jersey with up to 93-mile-per-hour winds. Unfortunately, 500,000 without power. It killed at least 4 people. Well, today we've got another shot, not just Philadelphia, but Chester, Pennsylvania, Baltimore down to Washington. I'm going to have a whole lot more on this, but Cristobal looks like end of the weekend, start of the week, makes its landfall somewhere along the Gulf Coast. I'll have more coming up, but first, the hot cities, brought to you by Consumer Cellular.
We rent this cabin every year.
Yeah, it's perfect for us. Affordable, convenient, just what we need.
Like our wireless service, Consumer Cellular. We get everything we need at a really great price.
Consumer Cellular offers talk, text, and data for as low as $20 a month. And they've received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service 8 times in a row.
Switching was easy. We even kept our phones and numbers.
And more of our money.
Make the switch to Consumer Cellular. Call, go online, or find us at Target.
It's a weather alert today for the high heat and our storm threat. Watchful eye on the sky and have your Storm Watch 7 weather app ready to go. Could see some downpours, some high winds, as well as some hail, and can't rule out the possibility of an isolated tornado later today. 3 to 11 p.m. Weather alert, 92 your high for today. Tomorrow 90, and Saturday up to 90 degrees before we cool down and lose the humidity. Second half of the upcoming weekend. Temperatures on Monday around 80 degrees.
205 endless orders migraine medicine. The 220 back-to-back calls migraine medicine. It's called Ubrelvy, the migraine medicine for anytime, anywhere.